Stand in a forest and say something. Anything, at a normal volume. Everything within a few hundred meters that can hear you is now deciding whether to leave. Not because you sound dangerous. You don't. You have no claws. You can't outrun anything with 4 legs. After dark, you are effectively blind. On paper, you are prey. And yet across 4 continents, wild animals run from the sound of a human speaking more readily than from the animal that evolved to hunt and eat them. Why? You cannot ask a zebra what frightens it. So there is a method, and it is almost crude in its simplicity. It is called a playback experiment. You hide a speaker in the landscape. You wait until an animal wanders into range on its own. Then you play a sound, the call of a predator, or a human voice at conversational volume. Not shouting, not a gunshot. Someone reading aloud. A hidden camera films what happens next. Does it stop chewing? Does it lift its head? How many seconds until it leaves, if it leaves at all? Those seconds are the measurement. And because every sound is tested the same way, you can rank them against each other. Ecologists have a name for the map this produces. They call it the landscape of fear. The idea is that an animal does not only live in a physical place, grass, water, cover. It lives inside a second landscape laid over the first, made entirely of risk. This slope is safe. That waterhole is not. This is where you eat, and that is where you get eaten. And that second landscape governs almost everything. Where it feeds, how long it stays, when it sleeps, how many young it can raise. Which leads to something people find hard to accept the first time they hear it. Fear alone thins a population. Nothing has to be killed. A frightened animal eats less, hides longer, and raises fewer young. And the numbers fall anyway. So the question becomes obvious. On that map, where are we? The first clear answer came from an animal nobody would have picked. In England, biologists Michael Clinchy and Liana Zinet ran playbacks on European badgers. A badger is not a nervous creature. It is heavy, low to the ground, armored in attitude, and it is itself a predator. It is the sort of animal that holds its position. They played at bears, dogs, wolves. The badgers stayed alert, but they kept eating. They went on being badgers. Then the researchers played a recording of people talking. Just talking. Someone reading a passage aloud in an even tone. The badgers stopped. Some froze. Some abandoned the food entirely. Some would not come out of cover to feed at all, night after night. A calm human voice, roughly the register you are listening to right now, did more to that animal than the sound of a bear. One species in one country is an anecdote. So the same group went to the largest remaining gathering of big animals on Earth. Greater Kruger National Park, South Africa. They buried automatic camera speaker units at waterholes, rigged to trigger when something came within about 10 meters. 19 species: giraffe, zebra, warthog, leopard, elephant, rhinoceros, and lion. Against human speech, they played recordings of real lions, snarling and growling in conversation rather than roaring, so the two sounds would sit fairly against each other. 94.7% of species ran sooner, or left the water faster, for the human voice than for the lion. Across the board, animals were twice as likely to run from us, and they abandoned the waterhole 40% faster. Sit with that, because the list includes the lions themselves. In an ecosystem where the lion is the top of everything, the lion was outranked. By people talking. There is one objection left, and it is a good one. Africa has had human hunters for as long as there have been humans. Perhaps what those animals carry is a very old, very local lesson. So in 2024, the same approach was taken to the opposite side of the planet. Australia. Kangaroos, wallabies, possums, marsupials that ecologists had generally filed as naive. Species assumed not to recognize a threat they had never evolved alongside. The expectation was mild curiosity. They fled from human voices 2.4 times more often than from the next most frightening sound tested, which was dogs. Europe, Africa, North America, Australia. 4 continents, 4 unrelated sets of animals, and every single time anyone has bothered to ask, the same answer comes back, which forces the harder question. Not whether they fear us, they clearly do, but why they should. In 2015, an ecologist named Chris Darrimont and his colleagues published a comparison in the journal Science. How humans hunt, measured against how every other predator hunts. 2,125 estimates, worldwide. The difference is not that we kill more. It is what we kill. A lion, a wolf, a shark takes the young, the old, the sick, the injured. Animals already unlikely to reproduce again. Predators live on the interest. We take the adults, the ones in their prime, the breeding core of the population. We spend the capital, and the rate is not close. Humans take adult fish at up to 14 times the rate marine predators do. We kill large land carnivores, bears, wolves, lions, at roughly 9 times the rate those animals kill each other. We hunt the hunters, the animals with no natural predator of their own, which is precisely why they never evolved anything that works against us. So the fear is not superstition. It is accurate. Except, if it were that deep, if it were simply written into animals, there should be no exceptions anywhere. There is one, and it is famous. When Darwin reached the Galápagos, he found animals that did not care that he existed. Birds that landed on him. Tortoises that carried on. Sea lions that would not bother to move aside. He wrote about walking up and very nearly touching them. Those islands had no land predator worth the name. Nothing there had ever needed to be afraid, so nothing there had learned to be, including of the strange upright animal that had just stepped off a boat. It is still true today. Tourists walk past that wildlife at a few meters, and it does not react, which means the fear is not issued at birth. It is acquired, learned, or bred in, across generations of being hunted. And that opens a second problem, one worth being honest about. When a badger freezes at a recording of a human voice, what have we actually measured? Terror of us, specifically. Or an animal reacting to an unfamiliar noise, a sound unlike anything else in its world, and doing the sensible thing. Those two produce identical footage. A frozen animal looks the same either way. We are inferring an emotion from a body that left, and we are the ones deciding what the body meant. It is worth noticing how badly we want the first reading to be true. There is something almost flattering about being the monster. Guilt is a form of importance. Nobody has separated the two cleanly. The experiments show us the behavior. The interpretation is ours. So, back to where we started. Why does nearly every wild animal on Earth run from us faster than from the thing built to eat it? The truthful answer is that nobody can be certain what moves through an animal when it hears a person speak. You cannot get inside a zebra. Whether that is fear or memory or something we have no word for is not knowable from a camera trap. What is knowable is the choice. Given a lion and given us on 4 continents, across 19 species and then more, the animals overwhelmingly chose to leave because of us. Not the one with teeth. There is one recording from the Kruger work that is hard to put down. A hidden speaker plays a lion. An elephant standing nearby hears it. The elephant does not run. It does not freeze. It gets angry. It walks straight at the machine and destroys it. Alone, at night, against what it believes is a lion, it turns around and fights. That is what a lion is to an elephant. A rival. A problem with a shape and a location. Something you can face. Then those same waterholes fill with the sound of people talking. And the elephants do not charge anything. They go quiet, and they leave early. Think about the difference between those two reactions, because the animals are telling us something they have no way to say. What they fight, they understand. What they disappear from, they have already worked out cannot be fought. Somewhere tonight, something is standing very still in the dark and then moving away through the trees, because it heard a sound like the one you are making now.